Faith spent days thinking about her situation. Each morning, she woke up with a heavy heart, knowing she had to tell someone about her pregnancy. She decided to talk to her parents first. One evening, after dinner, Faith gathered her courage and approached her parents. "Mum, Dad, I need to talk to you about something very important," she said, her voice trembling. Rebecca and Jonathan looked at each other, concerned. "What is it, Faith?" Rebecca asked gently. Faith took a deep breath. "I'm pregnant," she admitted, tears filling her eyes. Rebecca gasped, and Jonathan's face turned pale. "How did this happen?" Jonathan asked, trying to stay calm. Faith explained everything about Michael and how she had made a mistake. Her parents listened quietly, their expressions a mix of shock and sadness. "We always trusted you, Faith," Rebecca said softly. "We believed in you." "I know, Mum. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen," Faith cried. Jonathan sighed deeply. "We need to pray about this and decide what to do next," he said. "It's not going to be easy, but we will get through this together." Meanwhile, Grace, still in the city, had no idea what was happening. She continued her usual activities, unaware of her sister's struggle. Back in the village, Faith's pregnancy soon became the talk of the town. Villagers whispered behind her back, and Faith felt more alone than ever. She relied on her faith and her parents' support to stay strong. One day, Grace decided to visit the village to see how Faith was doing. When she arrived, she was shocked to see her sister's growing belly. "Faith, why didn't you tell me?" Grace asked, her voice filled with hurt and confusion. Faith couldn't hold back her tears. "I'm so sorry, Grace. I didn't know how to tell you. I was scared." Grace felt a mix of emotions: anger, sadness, and betrayal. "How could you do this to me? To us?" she cried. Faith reached out to her sister. "I made a mistake, Grace, but I need your support now more than ever." Grace took a deep breath, trying to calm down. "I need time to think about this," she said, walking away to clear her mind. The next day, Grace decided to take Faith back to the city with her. She couldn't leave her sister alone in the village, facing all the gossip and judgment from the villagers. When they arrived in the city, Michael was shocked to see Faith pregnant. His face turned pale, and he felt a rush of guilt and fear. "Faith, Grace, I didn't know," he stammered, looking at the sisters with pleading eyes. Faith looked down, unable to meet his gaze. Grace, however, faced him directly. "Michael, how could you do this? How could you betray me like this?" she asked, her voice trembling with anger. Michael fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "Grace, please forgive me. I made a terrible mistake. I love you, and I never wanted to hurt you or Faith," he begged. Grace looked at him, her heart torn. She wanted to scream, to cry, to run away, but she knew she had to stay strong for Faith. "Michael, I don't know if I can ever forgive you, but right now, we need to focus on Faith and the baby," she said firmly. Michael nodded, wiping his tears. "I'll do anything to make this right, I promise," he said, his voice filled with desperation. 2 weeks later, Michael approached Grace with a serious expression. "Grace, I need to talk to you," he began. Grace looked at him warily. "What is it, Michael?" "I want to pay Faith's bride price," Michael said. Grace's face turned red with anger. "So your family wants you to marry my sister, but they didn't let you pay my bride price. I won't accept this," she said, her voice rising. "You have no choice, Grace," Michael replied calmly. "Your sister is already pregnant with my child. It's our tradition that if a man hasn't paid the bride price for his pregnant spouse, the child automatically belongs to her father. You don't want that for me, do you?" "I still don't care," Grace said defiantly. She turned and walked away, her heart heavy with frustration and betrayal. A week later, despite Grace's objections, Michael went to the village. He met with Faith's parents and explained the situation. Rebecca and Jonathan were initially hesitant, but they understood the importance of tradition and the well-being of their grandchild. "Faith, this is for the best," Rebecca said gently. "We have to do what's right." They agreed, and Michael paid Faith's bride price, ensuring that their child would be recognized and protected by tradition. Back in the city, Grace felt a deep sense of betrayal and loss. She couldn't believe that Michael had gone through with it, but she also understood that they were bound by tradition. She struggled to accept the situation, feeling torn between her love for her sister and her own pain. Michael tried to talk to Grace several times, but she avoided him. She didn't want to hear his excuses or explanations. She spent more time out of the house, trying to clear her mind and figure out what to do next. Meanwhile, Faith was dealing with her own emotions. She felt guilty for causing so much pain to her sister, but she also wanted to do what was best for her baby. She prayed for guidance and strength, hoping that someday Grace would forgive her. Michael did his best to support Faith, but the tension between him and Grace was always present. Faith tried to reach out to Grace, hoping to mend their relationship. "Grace, can we talk?" she asked one evening. Grace looked at her sister with a mixture of anger and sadness. "What is there to talk about, Faith? You betrayed me." "I know, and I'm sorry," Faith said, tears in her eyes. "I never wanted to hurt you. I made a mistake, and I'm paying for it every day." Grace sighed, her heart aching. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Faith. But I also know that holding on to this anger isn't helping anyone." Faith nodded, understanding how hard this was for her sister. "I just want us to find a way to move forward. For the sake of the baby." Grace took a deep breath, trying to find some peace within herself. "I'll try, Faith. But it's going to take time." The days turned into weeks, and slowly, very slowly, the sisters began to rebuild their relationship. A month later, Grace found out that she was pregnant. She was overjoyed and immediately told Michael, who was equally excited. "Michael, I'm pregnant," Grace exclaimed, her face glowing with happiness. Michael's eyes lit up with joy. "That's wonderful news, Grace. I'm so happy," he said, hugging her tightly. With this new development, Michael's attention shifted to Grace. He was constantly by her side, making sure she was comfortable and taken care of. He hardly asked Faith how her baby was doing anymore. Faith noticed the change and felt a pang of jealousy. She had hoped that Michael would continue to support her through her pregnancy, but now it seemed like he only had eyes for Grace. One evening, Faith couldn't hold it in any longer. "Michael, you never ask about my baby anymore," she said, her voice filled with hurt. Michael looked at her, surprised. "I'm sorry, Faith, I didn't realize. How are you and the baby doing?" Faith sighed. "We're fine, but I feel so alone sometimes. I need your support too." Michael nodded, understanding her feelings. "I'll try to be there for both of you. It's just, everything is so complicated right now." Grace noticed the tension between Faith and Michael, but was too wrapped up in her own happiness to pay much attention. She enjoyed the attention Michael was giving her and didn't want anything to ruin her joy. When they both went for their ultrasounds, the results were surprising. Faith found out she was carrying twin boys, while Grace was expecting a baby girl. The news filled Faith with joy, but it sparked a dark jealousy in Grace. "No, this can't be happening," Grace muttered to herself. "If Faith gives birth to boys, they could inherit everything from Michael. I can't let that happen." Blinded by envy and fear, Grace decided to take drastic measures. She visited a native doctor, hoping to find a way to stop Faith from giving birth. "I need your help," Grace pleaded with the native doctor. "I don't want my sister to have her babies before me. Do something to delay her labor." The native doctor gave Grace a concoction and some instructions. "Use this carefully," he warned. "It will delay her labor, but there are risks involved." Grace nodded, determined to go through with her plan. She followed the instructions, and soon Faith's pregnancy seemed to be stuck. 9 months passed, and still there was no sign of labor for Faith. Faith was confused and worried. She went to the hospital, where the doctor assured her that the babies were healthy. But he couldn't understand why she hadn't gone into labor yet. Every night, Faith prayed to God with all her heart. "Lord, please help me. I don't know what's happening, but I trust in you. Please, let my babies come safely into this world." Meanwhile, Michael started avoiding Faith even more. Grace had filled his head with lies, telling him that Faith was a witch who was using Christianity to cover up her evil deeds. "Stay away from her," Grace warned Michael. "She could be dangerous. We don't know what she's capable of." Michael, already burdened by the complicated situation, began to believe Grace's words. He distanced himself from Faith, which only deepened her despair. Faith felt utterly alone. The weight of her pregnancy, combined with the growing tension in the house, was almost too much to bear. Weeks later, Grace gave birth to a healthy baby girl. She was so excited. Meanwhile, Faith's pregnancy had reached an astonishing 1 year and 5 months. Michael, unable to bear the strain and convinced by Grace's lies, chased Faith out of the house. "Get out," Michael shouted. "I can't take this anymore. You're bringing nothing but trouble." Faith, heartbroken and confused, packed her things and left. Grace watched with a satisfied smile. She finally had Michael all to herself. When Faith arrived at the village, she was met with ridicule and harsh whispers. The villagers mocked her unusual pregnancy, making life unbearable for her and her parents. "Look at her," they whispered. "A 1 year and 5 months pregnant. It's unnatural." Unable to endure the mockery, Faith and her parents made a difficult decision. They would return to the village they had fled from when Faith and Grace were still small. The journey was long and filled with uncertainty. When they finally arrived, they were surprised by the villagers' reaction. Instead of scorn, they were welcomed back warmly. "Welcome home," an elderly villager said, embracing them. "We've missed you." Faith and her parents were overwhelmed with relief and gratitude. They had expected rejection, but found acceptance and kindness instead. Before long, Faith became known as a healer. People came from far and wide just to receive her healing touch. One night, as Faith was sleeping, a voice came to her. "Faith, my child, the Lord has heard your cries. You shall give birth to your healthy twin boys in 2 days' time. Do not be afraid, for the Lord is with you." Faith woke up with a sense of peace and anticipation. Just as the voice had said, she gave birth to 2 healthy baby boys 2 days later. The whole village was overjoyed. Everyone celebrated the miracle, and Faith's faith in God grew even stronger. Meanwhile, back in the city, Grace had returned to her old ways. She often left her baby alone in the house to go clubbing with her friends. One day, Michael came home to find their daughter alone, crying and hungry. He was furious. "Grace, how could you leave our baby like this?" he shouted when she returned. They argued heatedly. But the next day, Grace brought in a maid to look after their daughter. Although Michael was initially reluctant, he realized he had no choice. He needed someone reliable to care for his child. Despite his anger and disappointment, Michael focused on providing for his family. Yet, his thoughts often drifted back to Faith and their twins. He couldn't help but wonder how they were doing and whether Faith had found peace. Back in the village, Faith's life was filled with joy and purpose. Her twin boys thrived, and the villagers respected and admired her. The prince became ill, and Faith's reputation as a healer reached the royal family. When Prince Obi was brought to her, Faith cured him of his illness. Grateful and deeply impressed, Prince Obi began to visit Faith frequently. They soon became best friends. A year later, Prince Obi knelt before Faith and asked, "Will you marry me?" Faith, overjoyed and honored, gladly accepted. Their wedding was the talk of the town. The entire village celebrated the union of Faith and Prince Obi, and their happiness seemed boundless. News of Faith's marriage reached Michael, who was filled with regret. Meanwhile, Grace's spending habits spiraled out of control. She lavished Michael's money on expensive things, throwing extravagant parties and neglecting their daughter. Soon, Michael lost his job, and their financial situation worsened. With no steady income, the household fell into chaos. Grace started bringing men into their home, and when Michael complained, she retorted, "Since I am the one providing for this family, you have no choice, Mr. Jobless Man." Michael felt humiliated and heartbroken. He often cried, regretting his mistakes and longing for a chance to make things right. He thought about Faith and their twins, wondering how different his life could have been if he had made better choices. Faith, now a princess, lived a life of fulfillment and purpose. She continued her healing work, supported by Prince Obi. Her twin boys grew up surrounded by love and respect, and Faith's faith in God never wavered. Dear amazing viewers, should we continue Michael's story to see what happens next? If you're curious to know more, subscribe, like, share, and turn on post notifications to catch the next episode. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay blessed.